The spaceport was loud with the sounds of alien ships landing, until a silence began to spread. People stopped talking. They turned to look at the old man walking slowly through the crowd. His hair was gray, his uniform faded, but his eyes, sharp as ever. Some whispered his name, Captain Elias Vorn, a name from old war stories, a name everyone thought was dead. Then, from the far side of the dock, she appeared, tall, proud, in silver armor that shone under the lights. Her alien eyes widened as if seeing a ghost. She stepped forward, her boots echoing against the steel floor. Then she stopped, raised her hand in a perfect salute, and said, "It's an honor to serve you again, Captain." The captain didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just looked at her and said quietly, "We need to talk. Somewhere private." The spaceport was alive with noise, lights, and movement. Alien ships of every shape floated in and out of the docking bays. The air smelled of metal, fuel, and 100 different spices from the food stalls lined along the walkway. People from many worlds hurried past, their voices mixing into a soft, endless hum. And then, the hum began to fade. It started with one person stopping, turning to look, then another, then a group. Slowly, the busy walkway grew quiet as eyes followed the slow steps of an old human man. His hair was gray, his back a little bent, but there was something in the way he walked, steady, unshaken, as if every step had purpose. His dark coat moved slightly with the breeze from the docking gates, and his boots clicked softly on the metal floor. Some whispered his name, others only stared, unsure if it could really be him. 15 years. That was how long it had been since Captain Elias Vorn had last been seen. For most, he was only a story, now a name from history lessons, a figure in war songs, a leader who had vanished without a trace. Many believed he had fallen long ago. But here he was, moving quietly through the spaceport as if he had never been gone. A small child peeked from behind her mother, pointing at him. Her mother shook her head quickly, pulling her back. No one dared approach him, not yet. And then, from the far side of the dock, someone stepped forward. She was tall, wearing silver armor polished until it caught the light with every move. The smooth plates of her uniform reflected both strength and elegance. Her skin was a soft pale blue, marked with faint lines that shimmered faintly under the station lights. Her eyes deep, bright, and alien locked on him the moment she saw his face. Her steps were quick but careful, her gaze never breaking away from his. When she reached him, she stopped sharply. Her boots landed with a soft metallic note against the deck. She stood straight, her hands at her sides for only a heartbeat before she raised one to her forehead. In a perfect salute, the crowd, now completely silent, watched as the alien woman spoke. Her voice was soft, but carried across the space between them. "It's an honor to serve you again, Captain." The old man stopped walking. He looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. A flicker of something passed through his eyes, recognition, maybe, or a memory long hidden. He didn't smile, but his gaze softened just slightly. "Kayla," he said at last. Hearing her name from his lips made her stand even straighter. "I thought you were gone," she said. "We all did." He glanced around at the people watching them. Too many eyes, too many ears. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Somewhere private." Without hesitation, she nodded. She turned on her heel and led him away from the main walkway, the crowd parting without a word. Behind them, the quiet slowly filled again with murmurs and questions. They walked through a narrow passage lined with glowing panels and quiet humming machinery. Kayla led him into a small observation deck at the edge of the port. Large glass panels stretched from floor to ceiling, opening to a wide view of the stars beyond. The galaxy hung in front of them, endless and calm. For a moment, neither spoke. Elias stepped closer to the glass, looking at the distant points of light. Kayla stood at his side, her hands clasped behind her back. "I waited," she said finally, her voice softer now. "Year after year, I waited for news, but there was nothing." "You shouldn't have waited," he replied. Her eyes stayed on him. "You were my captain. You still are." Elias looked at her then, and the faint lines on his face seemed deeper. "Things have changed, Kayla. The galaxy is not the same as when I left." She gave a small nod. I know. And I also know you wouldn't have returned unless something important had happened. He didn't answer right away. His gaze returned to the stars, as if searching for the right words. Finally, he said, there are things I can't explain. Yet, not here. Kayla studied him, her sharp eyes catching the weight in his voice. She had seen that look before 15 years ago, in the final days before he disappeared. Back then, it had meant danger was near. Whatever it is, she said slowly, I'll stand with you. Elias turned to face her fully, for a brief second. The tired lines in his face seemed to fade, replaced by a quiet strength. Then we'll need to move quickly, somewhere far in the station. A distant alarm began to sound, a soft, pulsing tone that faded just as quickly as it had. Come. Kayla's head tilted slightly at the sound. Elias didn't look surprised. He stepped back from the glass and adjusted the strap of the worn satchel across his shoulder. Not here, he repeated. Kayla gave a single nod, her voice steady. Where to, Captain? Elias glanced once more at the stars beyond the glass, then turned toward the door. Somewhere no one will follow. And with that, they walked out together, their footsteps fading into the quiet hum of the spaceport, leaving the observation deck empty except for the endless glow of the galaxy outside. They moved through the quieter levels of the station, where the lights were softer and the air felt cooler. Here, the noise of the main docks was only a faint echo, replaced by the gentle hum of hidden machines. The narrow walkways twisted and turned, with tall glass tubes, carrying streams of glowing liquid that pulsed like slow heartbeats. Kayla walked a few steps ahead, her silver armor catching the light with each turn. She knew these paths well, and Elias could tell by the way she never hesitated. From time to time, she glanced over her shoulder, making sure no one was following. Finally, they reached a small lounge tucked between sealed cargo bays. The door slid open with a soft chime, revealing a quiet room with low ceilings and wide windows that looked out into the drifting rings of a nearby planet. The stars beyond moved slowly, like they were listening. Kayla stepped inside first and turned to face him. No one comes here without my say, she said. You can speak freely. Elias lowered himself into one of the chairs by the window. His hands rested on the armrests for a long moment, fingers still as stone. Kayla didn't rush him. She could feel there was weight behind every word he was about to speak. When I left, he began, his voice deep but steady. I didn't leave because I wanted to disappear. I left because I had to. Kayla leaned forward slightly, her eyes fixed on him. We thought you were taken. Some said you were lost out there, somewhere no one could reach. Elias gave a faint shake of his head. No, I was hiding, not for myself, but for something I found. Something dangerous in the wrong hands. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small object wrapped in dark fabric. He didn't open it. He only set it on the table between them. Kayla stared at it, sensing there was more to it than its plain shape suggested. What is it? She asked quietly. His gaze stayed on the object, as if even looking away could be risky. It's not just a thing, he said. It's a key. And the lock it belongs to could change the galaxy forever. Kayla's brow furrowed. After all these years, it's still out there. Yes, Elias replied. And there are people, powerful people, who have been searching for it every day since I took it. People who will use it not to protect, but to control. Her voice was firm when she spoke again. And now that you've returned, they'll come for you. He nodded once, slowly. They already know I'm here. My return wasn't an accident, Kayla. I came back because the balance is tipping. And if it falls the wrong way, there won't be a second chance to fix it. For a moment, the only sound was the quiet hum of the station's systems. Outside the window, a small shuttle passed by, its lights cutting across the view like a slow comet. Kayla sat back, her mind racing with memories of their old missions, the near escapes, the long nights waiting for orders, the trust they had, built in the middle of uncertainty. That trust had never left her. Tell me what you need from me, she said finally. Elias looked at her, his expression softer now. I need you to do what you've always done. Stand with me, even when the path isn't clear. There was no hesitation in her answer. I've been ready since the day you left. He allowed himself the faintest smile. Then we'll start tonight. Kayla tilted her head slightly. Start what? Before he could answer, a soft tone from the wall console broke the moment. Kayla crossed the room and checked the display. Her eyes narrowed. What is it? Elias asked, that she turned toward him, her voice low. A docking request, no ID code. Whoever they are, they're not here for trade. Elias rose from his chair, picking up the wrapped object and sliding it back into his coat. Then they're here for me. Kayla glanced out the window at the faint glow of thrusters approaching through the rings. Something about their slow, deliberate movement made her feel the air grow heavier. She looked back at him. We don't have much time. He gave a single nod. Then let's move before they find where we're sitting. They left the quiet lounge, stepping into the narrow corridor once more. The station felt different now, every shadow longer, every sound sharper. Somewhere, far above them, the docks waited. But so did whoever had come through without a name. And as they walked deeper into the station's maze, Kayla realized that whatever was inside that small wrapped bundle was about to change her life. Again, just as it had 15 years ago, the corridor lights flickered as they moved. Not from any fault in the station's systems, but from passing under older sections where the metal walls carried a faint hum from power lines. Deep inside, the air here was cooler, with a faint scent of recycled water drifting in from vents overhead. Every turn seemed to carry them farther from the noise of the main docks, yet closer to something unseen. Elias walked at a steady pace, his steps quiet, his coat brushing lightly against the walls in the narrowest sections. Kayla stayed beside him, her armor making soft clicks with each movement. She kept scanning every corner ahead, her senses sharp, though her mind was somewhere else on the wrapped object hidden in his coat. They reached a small lift, its doors sliding open with a gentle hiss. Inside, the walls were lined with dull copper panels, scratched by years of use. As the lift began to move, the soft vibration under their feet was the only sound for a few moments. Kayla broke the silence. 15 years, Captain, all that time, and you carried it with you. Elias didn't look at her. His gaze stayed fixed on the numbers counting down on the small panel above the doors. Carried it, and kept it hidden. I couldn't trust anyone with it, not even those who once stood beside me. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Not even me. He finally turned to face her. If I had, you might not be here now. His voice wasn't sharp, but it held a weight that made her understand whatever dangers had chased him. They would have chased her too. The lift doors opened to a quiet service level. Low ceilings, dim lights, and long stretches of metal flooring stretched out before them. It felt almost forgotten, as if it had been built for a purpose long ago, but left to dust and shadows. This way, Elias said. Stepping out, they walked until they reached a door marked with a faint emblem, an old crest Kayla recognized from their past. She reached out and brushed her fingers across it. This was ours, she murmured. Elias keyed in a code on a small panel beside the door, and it slid open to reveal a hidden chamber. Inside, the space was simple, a round table in the center, a few storage crates pushed against the walls, and dim overhead lights casting a gentle glow. He set the wrapped object on the table, his hands resting on it for a moment before pulling back the dark fabric. Beneath it lay a crystal-like sphere, no larger than a fist. Its surface shimmered faintly, as if it held starlight inside. Kayla stepped closer, her voice low. It's beautiful. Elias didn't smile. And dangerous. This is the stellar key. It can open what should never be opened. Her gaze stayed on it. Why not destroy it? His answer came without hesitation. Because once it's destroyed, so is the only way to stop the device it controls. And that device is still out there, waiting for someone to find it. She looked up at him, her brow furrowed. So all these years, you've been keeping the galaxy from finding this key? Yes, he said quietly. But something has changed. The people who have been searching, they're closer now. I've heard whispers in the outer sectors. Entire systems have shifted their alliances. Old promises are breaking. Kayla folded her arms. And you think they'll find? You hear? They already have, Elias said, glancing toward the door. That's why I came to you first. There's no one else I can trust to help me finish what I started." She studied him for a moment, seeing the same determination in his eyes. She had known long ago, if we do this, we'll be running again. No safe places, no rest, I know, he said simply. But I'd rather be running toward the truth than sitting still in a lie. A faint chime echoed from somewhere beyond the walls, soft but sharp enough to make them both look up. Kayla tilted her head slightly. Someone's entered this level. Elias rewrapped the stellar key and slipped it back into his coat. Then we move now. The longer we stay, the easier we are to find. They left the chamber through another door, stepping into an even narrower passage lined with dim lights and exposed pipes. The air here was warmer, the floor vibrating faintly under their feet. As they moved, Kayla glanced at him. "Where does this lead?" "An old service dock," Elias replied. "If it's still working, it might give us the head start we need." The sound of distant footsteps reached them steady, deliberate and growing closer. Neither of them spoke, but their pace quickened. Kayla's mind raced. 15 years ago, she had followed him into the unknown, trusting his instincts over her own fear. Now, she felt that same pull again. Whatever was coming, it would not be simple. And whatever the stellar key truly unlocked, she was certain, it was more than even he had told her yet. They reached a sealed door, its panel covered in dust. Elias wiped it clean, entered another code, and waited as the door slowly began to slide open. Beyond it lay the faint outline of a small, quiet dock lit by pale blue lights. Elias stepped through first, scanning the shadows. "If we're lucky," he murmured. "The ship is still here." Kayla followed, her eyes adjusting to the glow. Somewhere behind them, the footsteps paused just long enough to let them know they weren't alone. The dock was almost silent, except for the faint hum of old machinery. Pale blue lights lined the edges of the floor, casting soft reflections on the metal walls. Dust drifted in the still air, showing just how long this place had been left unused. It felt more like a memory than a working part of the station. Elias stepped forward slowly, his eyes moving from one corner to another, scanning every shadow. Kayla followed a step behind, her hand brushing along the edge of a railing, as if she could feel the history in the metal itself. "There," Elias said quietly, pointing toward the far side of the dock. Kayla's gaze followed his hand, and her breath caught, resting in the corner, half hidden by support beams, was a small ship, its surface dull with age, but its shape unmistakable, sleek, narrow, built for speed. She recognized it instantly. "The Starling," she said softly. Elias gave a faint nod. "I hid her here before I left. No one's touched her since." They walked closer, and Kayla's boots echoed lightly on the deck. She reached out to run her hand over the ship's hull, feeling the faint ridges of its design under the layer of dust. "I never thought I'd see her again." "Neither did I," Elias replied. "But she's the only one fast enough to get us where we need to go." Kayla glanced at him. "And where is that?" His eyes shifted toward the far window, where the rings of the nearby planet shimmered faintly in the distance. Somewhere hidden, and somewhere dangerous for anyone carrying this. His hand patted the inside of his coat where the stellar key rested. Before she could ask more, a faint sound reached them, a gentle tap, followed by another. Footsteps, slow, careful, but definitely coming from the direction they had entered. Elias didn't look back. "We don't have long." Kayla moved to the ship's side panel and tapped a sequence into the control pad. The ship's systems came to life with a soft hum, lights blinking in greeting. She stepped aside so Elias could climb aboard first. Inside, the Starling smelled faintly of old metal and sealed air. The seats were worn but still sturdy, the control panels dusty but intact. Elias slid into the pilot's seat, his hands moving over the controls like a man greeting an old friend. Kayla took the co-pilot's chair, her eyes scanning the readings. "Engines will need a warm-up," she said. "She's been asleep for a long time. Then wake her fast." Elias replied. She began tapping commands, the ship responding with a low, steady vibration as its systems powered up. Outside, the faint echo of approaching steps grew a little louder, though still distant enough to give them a sliver of time. Elias glanced toward the dock's large doors. They'll expect us to go through the main exit. Kayla raised an eyebrow. And we're not? He gave a faint smile. The Starling has her own way out. As the engines hummed louder, Kayla noticed a section of the dock wall to the left, a large panel marked with faint, worn lines. Hidden bay doors, she realized aloud. Exactly, Elias said. Not many know about them. Fewer still can. Open them. He reached down and flipped a small, almost invisible switch beneath the main console. Somewhere in the dock, gears began to turn, slow at first, then faster, until the panel on the wall began to lift. Beyond it lay the dark, open stretch of space. Kayla's fingers flew over the last engine checks. She's ready, she said. The sound of footsteps was closer now, joined by faint voices too far to make out words, but near enough to sense. Urgency. Elias gripped the controls. Then let's go. The Starling lifted smoothly from the dock floor, dust swirling in the air beneath her. As they turned toward the opening, Kayla looked back one last time at the quiet dock, now half lit by the pale glow of the ship's thrusters. The moment they cleared the hidden bay doors, the black expanse of space stretched out before them. The rings of the planet glimmered like scattered silver dust, and distant stars dotted the darkness. Elias pushed the throttle gently, the Starling gliding forward into the endless quiet. Behind them, the hidden doors closed once more, sealing away the dock as if it had never been used. Kayla leaned back in her seat, her eyes still on the planet fading behind them. So, she said after a pause, "Where are we going?" Elias didn't look at her, his gaze stayed on the path ahead. A thin line of light marking their trajectory. "Through the darkness, to someone who knows what this key really unlocks," he said. "And if I'm right, they've been waiting for me to return." Kayla's brow furrowed. "Waiting? For 15 years, Elias finally looked at her, his expression calm but unreadable. "Some things are worth waiting for, but when we reach them, we might wish they hadn't." The Starling's engines purred softly, carrying them deeper into the quiet between the stars, where answers and more questions waited. The journey through the outer rings was slow at first, the Starling weaving between drifting chunks of ice and stone. The pale light from the nearby star cast shimmering patterns on the cockpit glass, making the emptiness outside look almost alive. Kayla sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat, her eyes moving between the navigation screen and the endless black. Beyond, for a long time, neither she nor Elias spoke. The hum of the engines and the occasional soft ping of the sensors were the only sounds. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence, it was the kind that comes when both people are thinking about the same thing but aren't yet ready to say it out loud. Finally, Kayla broke it. "Who is this person we're going to see?" Elias didn't look away from the controls. "An old friend, older than me, in more ways than one. Someone who knew the stellar key before I ever touched it." Her brow furrowed. "And you think they'll help us?" "I don't think," Elias said quietly. "I hope." The Starling passed the last of the icy debris and entered open space. The navigation display showed a thin dotted line, stretching toward a single faint mark far in the distance. Kayla tapped the screen lightly. "That's the place," he nodded. "An outpost in the shadow of a dead moon. It doesn't show on any current maps, and it's not supposed to exist anymore." Kayla leaned back, crossing her arms. "Sounds like the kind of place where answers come with more questions." Elias glanced at her, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You always did like a good mystery." Before she could reply, the console chimed softly. A small, pulsing light appeared on the radar, something behind them. Kayla tapped the display, and the system expanded the view. A single blip followed their path, distant but steady. "We've got company," she said. Elias's eyes narrowed. "How far?" "Too far to see us clearly," Kayla replied, "but close enough to be tracking our course." Elias adjusted the controls, making the Starling drift slightly off the plotted route. "Let's see if they follow." Minutes passed. The blip shifted, curving to match their change in direction. Kayla exhaled slowly. "They're following." He gave a slow nod. "Then they know where we're going, or they know we're carrying something worth chasing." She looked at him. "The key, exactly." Elias tapped a few commands, and the Starling's main display flickered to a star. "Chart filled with alternate routes. We'll take a longer path. It'll slow us down." but it might shake them off. Kayla tilted her head, studying the chart. Unless they're patient. Elias glanced at her. Patience is a rare skill out here. But if they have it, that's even worse. The starling banked gently, the stars outside shifting as they entered a region of space where faint clouds of dust and light drifted like soft smoke. The ship's hull made a low, constant hum as particles brushed against it. Kayla leaned forward, her voice lower now. 15 years ago, when you left, did you know it would lead to this? Elias's hands stilled on the controls for just a moment before moving again. I knew it would lead to something. I just didn't know if I'd live to see it. The console chimed again, another signal. Kayla checked the radar. Her eyes widened. We've got a second contact, smaller, but closer. Elias's tone was calm, but there was a firmness in it now. Then we're running out of time. He pushed the throttle forward, the Starling's engines rising to a deeper, more powerful hum. The stars outside stretched into thin lines as the ship surged ahead. Kayla tightened her harness, watching the radar. Both signals remained behind them, one steady, the other moving in short, sharp bursts as if probing their defenses. Whoever they are, Kayla said, they're not going to stop. Elias's gaze stayed on the stars ahead. Then we make sure we get to the outpost first. If we can reach it, we'll have more than just a ship to protect us. She glanced at him. More than just a ship. What else is there? He didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he adjusted their heading toward the faint glimmer of the dead moon's orbit. Outside, the darkness grew heavier, the starlight dimmer. Kayla knew that whatever lay ahead, the answers wouldn't come easily. But the way Elias's hands tightened on the controls told her something else. He wasn't just racing toward a destination. He was racing against something unseen. The dead moon appeared slowly out of the dark, its jagged surface catching only the faintest touch of light from the distant star. It was massive and silent, a shadow drifting in the endless black. Around it, faint trails of debris moved in slow, endless circles, like forgotten memories trapped in orbit. Kayla leaned forward in her seat, studying it through the cockpit glass. If I didn't know better, I'd say nothing could live here. That's the idea, Elias replied. The outpost was built to be invisible from most angles. It's just another part of the moon's surface. As they drew closer, Kayla began to notice subtle patterns in the rocky landscape, lines too straight to be natural, ridges that didn't quite match the rest. It was like staring at a puzzle where the pieces were almost, but not quite, in place. Elias adjusted the Starling's course, guiding it toward a shadowed canyon. There, he said. You'll see it when the light hits just right. The ship dipped lower, the canyon walls rising high on either side. For a few moments, it was nothing but dark rock and drifting dust. Then, as the Starling passed through a narrow bend, a glimmer appeared ahead, metal, polished and deliberate, hidden behind layers of stone. Kayla's eyes widened. That's it, Elias confirmed. He slowed the ship, approaching a large section of the canyon wall that seemed solid at first glance. But as they neared, faint blue lines traced across it in a geometric pattern, and with a low, rumbling vibration, the wall began to part. A hangar opened before them, its interior lit by a soft, golden glow. The Starling slipped inside, and the entrance sealed shut behind them, returning the canyon to darkness. Inside the hangar, the air shimmered slightly, a sign of controlled atmosphere. The walls were lined with strange, curved structures that looked more grown than built. Everything had a smooth, organic feel, as though it belonged to something alive. Kayla stepped out of the ship first, her boots making no sound on the floor. This place doesn't feel like human work. It isn't, Elias said, joining her. But it's been ours for a long time. From the far side of the hangar, a figure approached, tall, draped in flowing fabric that shifted like water. With each step, their face partially hidden beneath a hood. When they spoke, their voice was calm, measured, and carried an echo that made it hard to tell exactly where it came from. You've returned, the figure said. Elias inclined his head slightly. It's been a long time. The figure's gaze moved to Kayla, lingering just long enough to feel like they were seeing more than her appearance. And you brought another. She's trusted, Elias said simply. the figure reached out a slender hand, and Elias pulled the wrapped object from his coat. Without unwrapping it, the figure rested their palm gently on the bundle, their eyes closed, and for a long moment, there was only silence. When they opened their eyes again, something had changed in their expression. "It is still whole," they said softly, "but the pattern around it has shifted. Others are moving toward it." Elias nodded. "They've been following us since we left the station." The figure's gaze sharpened. "Then they know more than they should. And if they reach this place, they won't." Elias interrupted. "But I need to know where the lock is. The real one." The figure was quiet for a long time, their hands folding inside the loose sleeves of their robe. Finally, they said, "The lock is not where you expect it to be. It is not a place, it is a moment. And that moment is coming sooner than you think." Kayla frowned slightly. "A moment? What does that mean?" The figure looked at her. "It means the key will only matter when the right choice is in front of you. And that choice will decide far more than just your own path." Before Kayla could ask more, a low chime echoed through the hangar, deep and urgent. The figure turned toward the far wall, where a curved panel lit up with a faint image on it. Two shapes moved through the blackness outside the moon's orbit. "They've found you," the figure said quietly. Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we don't have much time." The figure stepped closer, lowering their voice. "You must leave again. There is someone you need to meet before they do. Without them, the key will mean nothing." Kayla looked from the figure to Elias. "And where do we find them?" The figure's eyes seemed to hold a glint of starlight. "Farther than you've ever gone, in a place where even the oldest maps fade into nothing." Elias didn't hesitate. "Then that's where we'll go." The figure inclined their head once, then stepped back. "Go quickly, and be ready. The moment I spoke of, it will come without warning." As Kayla and Elias returned to the Starling, the hangar's golden light felt warmer, almost protective, yet she couldn't shake the chill that crept into her thoughts. Whatever lay ahead, it wasn't just about the key anymore, it was about something larger, something already moving toward them from the shadows of the galaxy.